it seems that the Russians have chosen to blow this up. It's an indication that Putin didn't have faith in his own soldiers to hold the dam, to hold this crossing, because it's a critical crossing. It's a bit like crossing the Rhine in the Second World War. But there's massive dangers here.
What have you made of this damage which has been done to the dam in Ukraine and what appears to be, the pretty catastrophic effects of the flooding?
Yeah, it's a really important question, and I think significant that the West cannot ignore. I mean, just to place it into context, this is a huge dam that sits on the Dnipro River. The Dnipro River is a massive river that carves its way right across Ukraine from top to bottom in a sort of big S shape. This dam is just east of Kherson, so it's on the dividing line between Russian forces in the south and Ukrainian forces in the north. And it seems that the Russians have chosen to blow this up. It's an indication that Putin didn't have faith in his own soldiers to hold the dam, to hold this crossing, because it's a critical crossing. It's a bit like crossing the Rhine in the Second World War. But there's massive dangers here. I mean, first of all, to the Zaporizhzhia power plant. This is one of the biggest nuclear power stations in Europe. It requires the reservoir water to keep it cool, and that can be very dangerous indeed. We're moving into Russia creating weapons of mass destruction, which could have devastating scale on a humanitarian perspective. I believe the West has a responsibility to look at this very closely indeed and be willing to step in to prevent a massive, large-scale disaster, which could easily bleed out well beyond Ukraine itself. We cannot be bystanders while watching Putin destroy this critical national infrastructure. And I do hope that the powers that be, the international community, is looking very, very carefully indeed at this, because we cannot dismiss Putin's desire to wreak havoc. What he's done here is actually going to deny Crimea, its water supply. This is, a chunk of land that he claims that is leaning towards Russia, and now he doesn't care about them. They won't have the water that they need for the future, but he'll prevent slow down the counteroffensive that we've all been anticipating from Ukraine.
And just to talk about the international community, obviously Rishi Sunak's going to the White House to see Joe Biden this week. What would you like to see emerge from those talks?
Well, firstly, I mean, let's just place this Ukrainian counteroffensive into perspective. I mean, this is really quite, phenomenal what's actually going on here. This invasion took place. We were expecting a repeat of 1968, when the Soviets marched into Czechoslovakia, 2,000 tanks, 50,000 soldiers, and the country fell. It's been incredible to see Ukraine stand up to the third biggest army in the world and now move from defensive to offensive. But what I'd like to see, the conversations in the White House, is a commitment to still provide the complex military equipment that Ukraine will need to flush Russia out. So F-16s, more tanks, more long-range missiles. They don't need manpower because they've mobilized the entire adult population to lean into this. Yeah. What they need is the military equipment and the staying power of the West. We're a bit worried what might happen in a year's time if, for example, Trump got re-elected. Where would America go in its support for Ukraine?
Well, we'll see how that pans out over the next couple of days of that visit. Really good speaking to Tobias. Thanks very much for your reflections on Ukraine.